Another attack by the invading Russian army near the city of Pokrovsk in Donetsk region has been repelled. The invaders, attempting to advance with a tank equipped with anti-drone devices and 2 infantry fighting vehicles, were stopped by drone and artillery strikes from the CORSAIR battalion. Although infantry soldiers dismounted from the vehicles tried to advance, they were unsuccessful. A series of strikes destroyed the armored vehicles, which exploded along with their crews and other soldiers inside.
One of the most odious deputies of the State Duma of the Russian Federation, former General Andrei Gurulev, has once again become a mouthpiece for Moscow's imperial aspirations. He has directly voiced a threat to Poland, which, according to the Russian authorities, deserves a blow. I just came from Brest. I was at the commemorative events in honor of the beginning of the Great Patriotic War. I talked to, I won't say with whom. The Poles are now actively strengthening the border, and it's clear why. They messed up. That's the key word, messed up. If they messed up, should they get hit on the head? They should, and they understand this. No matter what mines they put along the border, the time will come, they will get hit on the head. Gurulev said in his last interview. Apparently, the dirty trick that the representative of the Putin regime is talking about is the massive support that Poland provides to Ukraine in the fight against Russian aggression. Warsaw has become one of Kiev's key partners, providing weapons, humanitarian aid, logistical support and shelter for millions of Ukrainians. Such words from an official are not simple bravado. They are part of the aggressive rhetoric that is increasingly used in the Kremlin, warming up the domestic audience and trying to intimidate neighboring countries. Moreover, statements about a possible Russian strike on NATO countries are made against the backdrop of a toughening of Russian military rhetoric. In recent months, a number of European analysts and military experts have been increasingly warning that the Kremlin may move from words to deeds. Thus, the threat of a direct conflict between Russia and the countries of the North Atlantic Alliance is being discussed more and more seriously in EU expert circles. This is facilitated by the build-up of Moscow's military potential and the concentration of troops near the western borders. Gurulev's words are not just the private opinion of a deputy. He has repeatedly appeared as one of the mouthpieces of the power wing of the Russian government, and his statements often duplicate the official narratives of the Kremlin. Meanwhile, Poland, like other NATO countries on the eastern flank, continues to strengthen its defenses and strengthen military cooperation with its allies. Warsaw is acutely aware of the level of threat posed by the Putin regime and is actively preparing for any possible scenarios. A new poll in Russia shows that Russians are tired of war and increasingly supportive of dictator Vladimir Putin's power-wielding course. Loud slogans about victory no longer work. Public opinion is gradually turning toward peace. The Russian Sociological Levada Center has published data that is unpleasant for the Kremlin. According to a survey conducted from June the 19th to the 25th, the idea of using nuclear weapons in a war against Ukraine is losing support. If in the fall of 2024 almost half of respondents considered a nuclear strike acceptable, today only 24%. The overwhelming majority, 65%, are sure that even in conditions of escalation, nuclear weapons cannot be used. Those who are critical of the Kremlin's policies are especially opposed to this scenario. Among them, the level of rejection exceeds 70%. At the same time, anxiety about a possible confrontation with NATO is growing. More than half of those surveyed, 56%, fear that further escalation will lead to a direct clash with the alliance. Middle-aged Russians and residents of provincial cities are especially wary. Only a third, 31%, do not share these concerns, mainly pensioners and Muscovites. Another important signal is the steady growth of support for peace talks. This position is shared by 2/3 of Russians, and this figure remains a record for the second month in a row. The desire for peace is especially pronounced among young people, 77%, women, 71%, and those who do not support Putin's policies, 81%. Only 31% are against the settlement, mainly men and residents of the capital. Although official support for Putin's movement remains high, 74%, the dynamics indicate a gradual decline in approval. Already 16% are against the war. This is almost twice as many as at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. General interest in events in Ukraine is also declining. In June, only 53% of Russians followed news about the war, which is significantly lower than last year. Young people, women, and critical citizens are increasingly ignoring the topic, while men, pensioners, and those who get their information from television remain the most involved. All these data point to a growing gap between the Kremlin's aggressive foreign policy rhetoric and the mood inside the country. Mass fatigue, fear of catastrophe, and the desire for stability are forming a new public demand that the Russian authorities are finding it increasingly difficult to ignore.